Tonight's open space comes from Norfolk and looks at the delights and disadvantages of village life.
Kenninghall is a small Norfolk village, population 730. To look at, it's not specially remarkable, which is precisely why an open-space film crew is invited to record a more realistic slice of village life than the romantic image so often seen on television. It's like other small villages all over the country, struggling to survive the loss of many of their services and the threat of yet more cuts. But this isn't the only way life has changed.
Well, of course it's changed. I mean, the actual village hasn't changed, but the people that reside here have changed. The population has fell. Whether that's good or bad, I don't know. It's dropped about nearly 100 in the past 10, 15 years.
There's only 2 public houses now. There used to be 6 or 7. But I think there was nearly every industry in the village, nearly. 2 or 3 blacksmiths, you know, and bakers, chemists, tinsmiths, everything in the village, doctors. And a very big foundry there used to be when I went to school. Employed quite a lot of people.
We haven't got a policeman, we haven't got a school teacher even in the village, and we haven't got a vicar, unfortunately. One of the greatest loss we ever had. I mean, when I went to school, if we did anything wrong overnight, our headmaster knew all about it next morning. As simple as that. If he didn't know, the policeman did.
But of course it's changed because you've got mains water, mains electricity. In those days there's no mains water. And by the way, there's still no main sewage in this village and no street lighting. And I don't really think we want it. It costs far more on the rates if you have all these things. Not only that, you see, if you have street lighting, people can see you coming out of the pub late at night. You don't want to be seen. Or to see, you know, it's much easier in the dark if you're with somebody else's wife or something of that nature.
Not only is there no street lighting, there's no bus shelter either. Though some of the local drama group know how they'd use it if they had one, as demonstrated in the annual village show, an assortment of sketches based on the rigours of life in dear old Kenninghall. It looks a lot more fun than waiting for a bus, which is no laughing matter for anyone who has to depend on the local bus service.
Basically, we've quite a lack of amenities, really. We've no main sewerage, we've no lighting, we've no swimming pools. All the things you pay rates for, we haven't got. Bus service is pretty abysmal, but it's better than, well, it would have been a couple of years ago. We had Chappie come out and he was doing a feasibility thing for Eastern Counties, and he came to see the chairman of the parish council. But he was out working, so he came over to see the lady that I was working with in her house. She doesn't use buses, so she asked me. And we were able to convince them that we needed our buses in the early morning and at 9 o'clock in the morning. And that is virtually all you've got to Norwich. Just one at 6:55. And without that, you can get nobody up to college, work, anything for the kiddies, you know.
The kids are bused to secondary school by a private coach company. Anyone going to college has to rely on public transport in Norwich, which means leaving the village at 7 and not getting back until after 6. This means they miss out on any kind of social life, as there's no other way of getting back to the village later in the evening.
No buses into the local market town now of Dis, except a shopper's bus on a Wednesday. But nothing provided, you know, like Eastern counties or whatever. Local government don't want to know.
It's a very active village. You know, there's always something going on. It's as a village, about here, we're probably one of the best. There's always activities going on in the village for somebody, whether it be the old people, or the school, or the youth, plus there's football teams, everything. There's something for everybody in Kenninghall, I think. We had become a village that had virtually died.
I think there were a lot of retired people here at one time, weren't there, which doesn't really help the village because you don't get the children and the school and the social side of it so much. But now there's more families moved in. I think it's helped the village a lot.
In this last 10 years, most of the properties that have come on the market have been bought by the younger generation, most of them out of the cities, and who moved into the country and are mixed in with the rest of the community very, very well. Come on, we're going to have a look. We're going to have a look at the cows. I would like to see a few more houses being built, because then we will know that we can guarantee the life of the school. It doesn't take many, and then hopefully younger families come in and to keep the school going. Let's be honest, we need at least 10 a year. And in a village Kenninghall size, 10 babies a year is a bit... it takes a lot of doing.
Eddie must have been a beautiful baby. He and the lads gamely knocked back their beer out of feeding bottles, the stars of the mother and toddler sketch. But the number of children in the village is a real cause for concern.
Under the new Norfolk Structure Plan for Education, they're thinking of closing schools with less than 60 children. We're down to just under 65 at the moment, which is very worrying. We were 70 plus at the end of last year. And the school is very much a part of the community. And people making a decision whether to stay in the village or move into the village are very much going to be influenced by the fact of whether there's a school here. Because people with young children don't want them to bus miles to a school somewhere else, especially primary age. They want them on the spot.
Plans have only just been agreed for the school to have inside toilets. Twice this year the school closed because the outside loos had frozen up. It would probably have happened more often if it hadn't been for Mrs. Dennis and her daily battle with the plumbing.
Well, you just have to sort of attempt to thaw them out and flush with buckets, basically, because it's your mains that freezes as much as anything. You can keep everything else sort of just about ticking over. But if the mains is frozen up under the ground, well, you know, Providence be it, there's nothing you can do with that. Not this winter, last winter, when things were really bad and we were really snowed in the village, and they were having to take kiddies home to go to the toilet, and, you know, school was virtually stopped, and education was completely disrupted when that happens. And so the parents all got together, and I think they had a few of the school inspectors and governors out, and they had a look at it, and you sort of put a bucket in their hand, and they didn't really like the idea very much. So from then on, things got moving, you know. I think a lot of the young people will leave, but having said that, their roots are here, and they may well come back to settle here later when they want to bring up their own children, because it's quite a nice place for young kiddies. You're free of a lot of the sort of traffic problems that you've got in other places, but for the 15 to 25s, there isn't much really at all.
The village show, postponed from Christmas, was produced by the lady in the exotic blue knickers. The doctor didn't know until the night why she wanted to borrow his stethoscope for this sketch, set in his surgery, the perfect place to get all the gossip.
We're lucky to have a doctor here. Many people around here have got to travel quite large distances to a doctor. Of course, the problem is that when Dr. Rayner goes, we probably won't have a surgery because the Norfolk attitude at the moment is to do away with single doctor practices and have group practices.
Yes, of course, Mrs. Pitt. Sit down.
People are very anxious to know the doctor, and I think it's a good idea when a doctor like our doctor knows the family background. Old people have confidence in somebody they know. They don't want to go down to a surgery and find they have to see a different doctor. Otherwise you have to wait for an appointment for 3 days, by which time you're either dead or very sick, or you don't need them anymore because you've looked after yourself.
Kenninghall doesn't have its own policeman. And the nearest police station is at Attleborough, 9 miles away. But it closes at night. So, if there's an emergency, it's a matter of dialing 999 for the nearest Panda car. PC Leak has special responsibility for the village.
Well, initially we had beat men resident in the area. Kenninghall its own, and likewise Bannerby joining village. Nowadays, we have a community liaison officer who works from Attleborough, which is the section office for the area, and spends most of his time in this area, to which is allocated. I mean, obviously, the big man being resident knew everybody, personally probably, in all cases. But of course, in those days, we didn't have the mobility that we have today. So if you're talking about mobility, we've got more mobility today, although of course you don't get a personal contact. Perhaps unfortunate. For Kenninghall itself, I was appointed in October. So I'm obviously still getting to know it. And this is going to take, I would think, another year perhaps.
Mothering Sunday at St. Mary's Church. There is no permanent vicar, and it's now part of a group of parishes looked after by 2 vicars, Philip Nichols and Keith Hawkes.
This village has a memory of one particular man in recent history who most people would probably think of as the ideal parson, and they had a tremendous affection and respect for. Yeah. And he was seen, he was known to take part in things and enjoy them and love people, and I mean, in many ways we would like to be able to do that.
There weren't any marriages on Saturday afternoons when it conflicted with a home match for Norwich City, because he was a keen footballer, but apart from, he did play for Norwich, I think, at one point, but he'll recognise himself by all these descriptions. He's a wonderful man, but this is the thing, he walked down from the church every morning to the marketplace, down this street here, and it probably took him 2 or 3 hours because he was picking up information. And I think that's what we miss a bit, isn't it? Mm. Although we listen hard, we miss a lot because we're not there. The vision I have that Kenninghall is changing, and the village's people, obviously, like the church's people, it's changing in character and in feeling, but I feel that people's needs remain the same. That the message that our Lord brought is not going to change with the silicon chip, you know, that's it. What I see is that we're in this sort of interim period. Someone said at a clergy meeting that we both went to that when we clergy take our finger off the button, enormously interesting things happen, and I'm sure that's true.
Where the clergy, who aren't particularly good at things, have just moved back a bit and said, can somebody else do this? And they've got on and done it 100 times better. Or people have simply taken their own initiative and thought to themselves, probably, these poor saps, they can't cope, you know, and have got on and done things. And things are, you know, there's a tremendous lot of life. And if we had a look at the numerous skills which are available in just this one village out of all the 7, There's a tremendous amount of expertise, skill, experience, much of which has not been fully tapped.
I believe each village needs a pastor, a man or a woman, and I think that this situation will bring up these people that God is calling. And I see, you probably won't print this, but I see that, you know, the time will come when the village will present such a person to the bishop and say, well, this is our person. We think,
Yes.
you know, and please ordain him or her. And you know, bishops do have the right to ordain people. You don't have to go for years into a theological college. He can. He doesn't, but he could. And I see that coming, I hope. I'm very optimistic. I'm an incurable optimist.
We made a conscious decision, really, to live in a small community. My husband comes from a small Norfolk village anyway. Wasn't very keen on living in a city, and we decided that we would come back to Norfolk and live in a village situation. And I think our children have grown up without a lot of the stresses and influences that are around today, pressures that make it very difficult for youngsters to grow up always in the right way. There have been disadvantages. The children have moaned about them sometimes, about the fact there isn't a skating rink around here. But I think now they're older, they know that they've grown up in a very pleasant, friendly, caring community, and I think that's important. The whole pace of life is different.
Morning.
People have time for things and have time for each other, and I think that's important.
You all right this morning, Connie?
Yes, thanks. The post office is very much the unofficial Citizens Advice Bureau, but with government encouraging pensioners to have their money paid monthly into a bank account, it could close because of loss of revenue.
They're terrified of banks, a lot of the elderly ones are, and I can't really see them helping them as we try to. We try to sort out some of the problems for them, the pension problems, and a lot of other problems too. I'll put that on for you, look.
Yes.
Underwater?
Yes, please.
This is part of our job, really, to help them out on this. They're just petrified. We've had one in this morning with a rates bill, and he just said, what have I got to do with this? It was a refund, and I found out that he hadn't got any to pay at all. He was scared stiff about this, you know. That's the type of thing. And also, they'll come in and they haven't received their supplementary benefit through the post, and they're panicking again. So we have to ring up direct to Mountergate and find out what's happened to it for them. And it's quite a rigmarole when you trying to get through to the right department when you get through there as well.
Yes, they're terrified of phoning. It's another thing, you see. A lot of them aren't on the phone, a lot of the older ones, and they're terrified of phoning up to departments.
I think it's getting through to them now, because one lady's contacted the SDP for us to fight our case, and I know there's been press coverage of this, and I think it's getting home to people because they've been coming over the counter and asking us whether we are going to close. But we feel that we're probably lucky that we're a bigger office, but I feel very sorry for smaller offices that just won't be a viable proposition. They won't be able to afford to run one of these offices, you see, in the future. Fortunately, we've got a lovely village here, and so we're very, very lucky.
The remarkable thing about Kenninghall is its community spirit and the amount of money raised in the village for charities like the British Legion, Good Companions Club and Help the Aged. And that's apart from providing and paying for their own village hall and playing fields. Perhaps the most colourful bunch of fundraisers are the Kenninghall Strollers, who to date have raised £10,000 with their sponsored walks, planned over several pints at the White Horse pub. The idea was dreamed up by local hero Chuck Arthurton, years before Ian Botham, to walk to Norwich for a bet which made £100 for the local Old People's Club. Since then, the Strollers have done dozens of walks to help the Heart Hospital at Addenbrooke's and the Hospice in Norwich, as well as directly helping widows and orphans and anyone else in trouble. At the rival pub up the road, the Red Lion, the pet charity is Guide Dogs for the Blind.
We've always been great dog lovers, and
we have a friend who was blind as well, and so, you know, that's always been our one aim, to try and provide a little help for somebody else. We've raised about 7,000 over the last 6 years. There's a photograph of Leonie up there. We tried to name it after the pub, Leon, we said, but of course when it arrived it was a girl, so we had to add a bit on.
In Kenninghall, it's unheard of for old people to die of neglect. Meals on Wheels and the hospital car service are run by willing volunteers, and elderly and disabled people are collected from their homes by car once a fortnight for the community lunch, which is cooked by local ladies. Oh, there's plenty of help from friends and neighbours.
Hello, Miss Pearl. Here again. Here again. Yeah.
Miss Pearl, you've been here how long? How long have you lived in the village?
60 years.
Yes, 1926, my goodness. You must have seen an enormous difference in the traffic.
Yes, pony trap and bicycles.
Yes.
Well, very sensible.
Very sensible. Did you have a pony trap yourself?
No, no.
What did you bike, or what did you do?
Oh, cycle.
You cycle?
Oh, yes, miles.
You told me people used to come to the door with pony and trap.
Yeah, oh, yes, fetched us.
Yes.
To the station. Yes.
And you once told me about the Girls' Friendly Society.
Yes, we met in the church hall. And we had a little bit of money left over. We always had a bit of money. And he bought the church flag.
And that's the flag that flies on high days and
Sundays.
Yes.
Yes. We bought that.
Good for you.
Yes.
My great-grandfather came here around about the turn of the century. Yeah. We're in engineering and coach operators. Actually, the engineering has been in the family really since the great-grandfather's time. Started with agricultural engineering up at the foundry and then moved down into the centre village with on the more modern-day cars.
For 20 years, there were no bell ringers at Kenninghall Church. When plans were announced to start a new group, the Turner twins from the garage were the first to volunteer.
It all started with a little penciled note on the shop door saying, you know, would anyone like to learn bell ringing? So we all turned up and went along to Banham Church, where we met Wilfred Saunders, our ringing master. We ended up training on the 6th at New Buckingham, and then about 18 months ago he brought us back here, and we've been back at Kenninghall, our home tower, ever since.
5th to 3rd, 4th to 2nd, 7 to 4th.
To a certain extent, you've got to be a person who's reliable, and a person who, come rain or shine, sun, blizzard, whatever, will turn up. It's no good being a fair weather ringer who says, well, no, I'm going to have my hair done tonight, or off out to dance, blow the ringing. If you're really interested in ringing, whatever the conditions, you'll turn up, and that's the person we're looking for. Being in business and living on the premises, that's really nice to get totally away from it and joining something that you know, you can enjoy with other people. The trouble is, it does tend to take you over a little bit, you know. You're thinking bells, eating bells, bells all the time. Yes.
Saturday night at the Memorial Hall. The Ceilidh in aid of the Mothers and Toddlers group, put on by some of the families new to the village.
I used to come here for summer holidays, and really my parents owned a cottage here, so we've always, you know, it's always been part of my life. You know, but we actually moved here when I got married, and lived here ever since.
They thought we were gypsies, actually. We had a horse and cart, the gypsy caravan, everybody thought we were gypsies.
They were extremely
warm towards us, especially having children. Having children changes people's attitude towards you immediately, and meeting people at playgroups and toddler groups and schools is a very good way of being accepted by people, no matter what you are, really.
Moving to a village, we found out after being accepted readily that if anything happens, or you've got a problem, or you want help, you'll find a lot of the people within the village will very readily come forward to help you, and they'll put themselves out for you. So it's a very high community spirit. You're not by yourself at all.
I think that instead of being seen as a community full of people, we're seen by bureaucrats generally, whether it's the medical authorities, the education authorities, or government and council authorities generally, as statistics, economic statistics at that. And I think we're getting to the point where people are being forgotten, and the needs of the community as people are more important than economics and statistics. Otherwise, they're going to end up with a lot of dead villages, certainly in a rural area like Norfolk, where people will just move away. They'll become depopulated.
As far as I'm concerned, we should all be equal in this country. You know, if the inner city is entitled to X pounds, so therefore we should be entitled to it. And from knowing what the money is being spent on inner cities, we get a bad deal out of it. A very bad one. But I would never, there again, I would never move into an inner city. I would never move to the city. You know, I like the country too much.
I don't think the rural areas get a fair deal at all. I mean, I think quite honestly, it might sound mean to any inner city kids or whatever, but they've had, used, abused and lost more than our kids ever know exist. Really do. I mean, they have libraries, they have swimming pools, they have cinemas. Some of the kids out here haven't been on a train or a cinema, unless mum and dad are pretty flush and got cars taken somewhere. They just don't get. If it wasn't for television, they honestly wouldn't see half of what goes on. But then it just makes them realise what they've missed, what they don't have. You know, you've got to be a born optimist, really. Any achiever from a country village really usually goes to the top, because they've had to fight all the way, I think.
Do you like living here?
Yes.
Would you want to live anywhere else?
No.
No.